Walt Disney's Disneyland.
When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are.
Each week as you enter this timeless land, one of these many worlds will open to you. Tomorrowland, promise of things to come. Fantasyland, the happiest kingdom of them all. Frontierland, tall tales and true from the legendary past. Adventureland, the wonder world of nature's own realm. Presenting this week from Adventureland, the best doggone dog in the world.
Now here, I want you to sit up. Sit up. I want you to look pretty. There, up now. Pretty. Pretty. Pretty.
And now your host, Walt Disney.
You know, to every dog owner, his dog is the best doggone dog in the world. And I felt the same way myself. I've had all sizes, shapes, and breeds. And right now, my candidate for the honor is Lady here, a miniature poodle. Before Lady, we owned a large-sized standard poodle. And I used to think that she was the only female in my family that really understood me. I've always had some kind of dog around. In fact, when I was a boy delivering papers back in Kansas City, I had a whole army of them. I used to buy bologna, and all along my paper route, I'd have dogs waiting for me, and the bologna. They were all mongrels and moochers, but good pals just the same. Later on, we had little cockers, big shepherds, and a Keys hound. And when my daughters were small, a chow. And you couldn't want a better guardian for children. Every one of my dogs at the time was the best doggone dog of all. And now, it's little Lady. She's small, but she's easy on the bric-a-brac. Around the house, she's a personality in her own right. In fact, I had a little trouble getting her to appear on this program with me. You know, she watches television herself, and so she insists on some dogs out there in the audience. If you have a pooch who's a member of your family, invite him in. Let your dog have a front row seat, because this hour is going to be all about dogs and the wonderful things they do. There now, Lady. Are you satisfied? Can we go on with the show? A little later, we'll present the story of some amazing collies that help herd sheep in Arizona. Then we'll touch Texas, the Texas of frontier times, when we bring you some preview scenes from our motion picture, Old Yeller. Like a lot of dogs, Old Yeller wasn't much to look at. But when it came to courage, he had a heart as big as all outdoors. But before we meet Old Yeller, we'd like to pay a tribute to dogs everywhere. Now, I'll wager your dog is devoted to you and your family. And this affection seals a friendship that is pretty universal. In fact, dogs are known and loved in every land. In the alpine villages of Switzerland, the goat boy and his dogs are a familiar sight. In Portugal, dogs take on the dangerous work of herding the bulls that are bred for the bull ring. Farther north in the Scandinavian forests, dogs go along to help round up the herds of reindeer. And in the land of the Eskimo, dogs are the motive power for all transportation. Often a good dog team means the difference between life and death. There seems to be a special affinity between dogs and kids, and this rule applies everywhere, from the frozen wasteland of the far north to warmer climes farther south. In the United States alone, it's estimated there are 23 million dogs, or about 1 to every 7 people. That's near to being 1 for every family. And a youngster who has never had a dog hasn't really tried very hard. Of course, the title of Best Doggone Dog can mean many things. It depends on what you're looking for in the dog of your choice. The breeding of dogs goes far back into history, for man very early discovered that dogs could be developed for special traits and purposes. In spite of the fact that we think of it now as a pet, the poodle was first developed for hunting. In fact, the famous poodle cut was originally used to give the dog greater freedom in the water as a retriever. The bulldog was originally what his name implies, a dog to fight bulls. Nearly every country has a herd dog of some kind, and one of the oddest looking is this Hungarian sheepdog, a dog whose hair is always in his eyes. You'd think this fellow might have trouble finding his way around, but behind those bangs, there's actually an eye or two. And this character is quite used to looking at the world through a curtain of hair. Dogs, like kids, come in all sizes and shapes. 112 different breeds are recognized in the standard dog shows. And yet all the purebred dogs put together couldn't begin to match the total of just plain mutts. The all-American dog is apt to be a little of everything. Take a mutt show and some kids, and you've got some pretty keen rivalries. King for a day, today and every day. Dogs are quick to learn and easily trained, and nearly every dog can do tricks of some sort. Sit up, lie down, roll over. These are some of the first commands a dog learns to obey. For some dogs, all this is amateur stuff. They are the professionals who end up with a career on the stage. It's in the role of humanitarians that we are inclined to honor dogs most. And it's a fact that their best traits come forth when they are asked to help the unfortunate and the afflicted. The greatest challenge comes when they serve as guide dogs to the blind. Here is where intelligence and devotion are put to their finest test. In these scenes filmed at a training school, a guide dog is taking his final examination. The test is to lead his blindfolded instructor through an obstacle course. The guide dog must not only look straight ahead, but overhead too. He must know his master's height and not lead him into overhanging obstructions. On a city street, this could well be an awning, which he must go around. The supreme test comes when he meets extraordinary distractions, such things as a cat. For most dogs, the temptations of the chase would be overpowering. But natural instincts must give way to duty, and the guide dog's first allegiance is always to his master's safety. In the alpine regions of Europe, dogs called avalanche dogs have come to fill another need. When disastrous snowslides bring destruction to these villages, specially trained dogs are rushed by helicopter to the scene. Sometimes these catastrophes wipe out entire communities. And though rescue teams do their best to locate the victims, it often requires days just to clear away the surface debris. It's the dog's part to lead rescuers to persons buried deep under the snow. Except for the dog's keen sense of smell and a rescue that comes in time, these people might never be saved. The bloodhound stock in trade is also a sensitive nose. And these two, belonging to Russ Cohn of Los Gatos, California, are well known all up and down the Pacific coast, for they helped track down 75 persons lost in rugged country like this. In this reenactment, 2 children were given a long head start and instructed to hide in the deep woods. Then a rag doll belonging to the little girl was shown to the dogs. This is their clue, any article bearing the scent of the person they are expected to find. These dogs, called Daniel Boone and Calamity Jane, are old hands at this game, and they go about their business with amazing efficiency. A running stream would seem to offer little opportunity for catching the human scent. In fact, it's an old but mistaken belief that bloodhounds cannot follow a trail through water. But a river is no puzzle to them, as we shall see in a moment. It's Calamity Jane who decides the youngsters have crossed the stream. And in a moment, Daniel Boone verifies her findings. And so they follow the trail up the farther bank. Even the sudden appearance of a deer cannot distract these dogs. Still paying attention to business, they pass within 30 feet of the animal and utterly ignore it. To the children, all this has become a game, sort of like a hounds and hare chase. And now they locate what they hope will be a perfect hiding place, an old hollow tree. Well, it might have been the perfect hideaway with any other dogs than these. All this, of course, was only a reenactment, but nobody could express more gratitude at being found. Man has learned to breed dogs for many purposes, and in the greyhound, he has brought to perfection all the sharp reflexes that mean speed. Quick and alert, greyhounds were born to run. A leash only makes them nervous and impatient to get going. Incidentally, in our work here at the studio, we often use the camera to study animal action. And here's how the greyhound appears in slow motion. Here is supreme grace and superior speed combined. In the dog kingdom, the greyhounds are the fastest runners of all. In fact, they are one of the fastest animals in nature, surpassed only by the cheetah, the horse, and some of the antelopes. Over a short distance, they can even outsprint a horse, reaching an all-out speed of 40 miles an hour. Here is the true animal athlete. Dog, in his many shapes and forms, has always had man's respect and admiration. And it's a fact that for talent, intelligence, and devotion, there's really no animal quite like him. Our motion picture, Old Yeller, was taken from this book by Fred Gibson, who based his story on the true tales his parents used to tell about frontier dogs. You know, there have been some great dog stories written, Call of the Wild, Bar Sinister, The Hound of Florence, to name only a few. But this Old Yeller, to our way of thinking, is one of the best of all time. Lady, you'd like this book. Here's how it begins. We called him Old Yeller. The name had a sort of double meaning. One part meant that his short hair was a dingy yellow, a color that we called yeller in those days. The other meant that when he opened his head, the sound he let out came closer to being a yell than a bark. I remember like yesterday how he strayed in out of nowhere to our log cabin on Birdsong Creek. He made me so mad at first that I wanted to kill him. Then later, Well, we'll come to later in a moment. This story is about the Coates family. The place is Texas. The time is the late 1860s. There were 4 in the family, not counting Jumper the mule and Rose, a balky old cow. The part of Arliss, age 6 and about as wild as the flowers in the fields, is played by Kevin Corcoran. His brother Travis is portrayed by Tommy Kirk, and Fess Parker stars as the father. Dorothy McGuire stars as Katie Coates, a woman of the frontier equal to any crisis. To each of these people, Old Yeller came to mean something pretty special. But now let's visit Dorothy McGuire in her dressing room and let Dorothy tell us how it all happened.
I think if I were to try to find one word to describe Old Yeller, it would have to be loyalty. He was a wonderful dog simply because he was so much of what all dogs are. He was truly a part of the Coates family. And if you own a dog, I think you'll recognize some of your dog in Yeller. When I first read the script, I realized that Katie would have to be played as a rather down-to-earth person. She's a woman who's learned to do without pretty clothes. And so when her husband brings her this store-bought dress all the way from Kansas, it's like having an evening gown from Paris. But simplicity seems to suit Katie best because she lives close to the reality of things. And that, I think, is what appeals to me most about this motion picture, its feeling of genuineness. At one point in the story, Katie must face a situation that many pioneer women had to accept. Her husband, Jim, must leave the family to go off on a cattle drive.
We're ready, Miss McGuire.
Thank you, I'm coming. Well, there isn't time for more. I must go now. We've one more scene to do, the one where I get to wear my store-bought dress. You know, this role has really kept me on my toes. When one takes on small boys and dogs, one has real competition. They're the world's greatest scene stealers. Goodbye.
In the long history of dogs, none has a better record for performance than the herd dog known as the Border Collie. Originally, they were used along the Scottish border to tend the flocks that roamed that rugged terrain. Wherever sheep are raised, there the Border Collie has a job waiting. This holds true from Scotland to Australia and even in the arid desert country of Arizona. In the vast spaces of the Navajo Reservation, a sheep herder would be almost helpless without his trusty collies. So ingrained is their herding instinct that they will herd anything they set their mind to, even a creature as tiny and wild as a chipmunk, as we shall see in the story we present now.
Every year at this time in the Navajo sheep country of Arizona, the flocks are ready to be sold. Whole tribal families, such as Blue Coyote and his wife and children, bring their herds into the nearest trading post area to wait for buyers. The goats are always a problem at selling time, and although the Indians try to separate them from the sheep, they always manage to outsmart the herders and get back into the flocks. This has been a dry year. These Indians know they must sell now if they're to make any profit. As they come in, the sheep are run through a narrow chute so they can be counted. This little fella's already counted his. Of course, some always spend their cash before they make it. You notice that in Navajo country, the whole family goes along on the business trips. Hey, Blue Coyote scouts the first buying prospect in the distance. On second glance, it's an old customer. He turns up here regular about this time of year with his mule and his 2 border collies. Rock here is the senior member of the team. Nick, now, he's the young'un. Got a hankering for the excitement and adventure along the trail. Fact is, man's never figured out anything to take the place of a good working sheepdog. The first deal, being the first, always stirs up the most interest. From the older citizens down to this fellow with his traveling chipmunk. The buyer starts looking over the herd. And Nicky and Rock wait to see if there's going to be a deal. The buyer offers a fair price, 5, 10, 15 cents a pound. No, 16 a pound. Appears to be a deadlock. Looks like the buyer isn't going to meet that price. Wait. A nod from an old-timer. Sold at 15. All right, let's get to work. Rock, Nick, in slow and ease out the goats. Go by, Nick. Steady on, Rock. As Rock works the goats out of the corral, Nick runs into a little trouble inside. A nanny goat isn't going to budge, and a look around tells Nick why. Her twins have got separated. And Nick knows that all progress is going to stop unless her kids are rounded up and get their dinner. While all attention is on the dogs, nobody notices that a certain chipmunk cage has come open, except the chipmunk. Way around, Nick. Bring him back. Now the long, hard drive is about to begin. Navajos have made their profit on the sale. The buyer will, only if he and his dogs get this herd to pasture and water. And there's a lot of dry country in between. They reached the halfway point long about supper time a couple days later. There isn't a lot of grub to go around, but they all share and share alike. The next day, as they near the only watering hole on the journey, the thirsty herd steps up its pace. But the dry year has taken its toll. The few drops of water left in the trough only make them thirstier and a lot more restless. A ewe, hardly able to wet her tongue, returns to let her lamb have a few last drops. Five sheep catch the smell of distant water and stray off to find it. There's water all right, but there's danger there too. And Nick knows what that danger is. There it is, water. But how to get to it? In this rough country, Rock and his master can't see hide nor hair of Nick and the strays. So all they can do is hope that he'll find them and bring them back. The main flock's got to be moved on right now, or they'll all make a break for the river. The treacherous currents pull at the crumbling sandy banks, drawing the thirsty sheep closer. Takes on water like a sponge, and the added weight will pull them under unless Nick can manage to get them out. Gets up on a rock, all right, but she's liable to stay there till she dies if she's not led or driven off. Since there are no other sheep for her to follow, Nick knows that if he can get the front part moving, the back will follow her along. So he nudges her front feet off of the rock. water, and they got it. But here they are, in a boxed-in canyon. Now, how to get out? The place is full of blind trails that lead nowhere. This one looked good, but it didn't pay out. Nope, another blind alley, and a new problem. Here they are on a narrow ledge without sense enough to turn around or back up. Nick's gonna have to squeeze up front and get their heads turned around. Then they'll get going. And whenever one can squeeze through, the rest will follow, even if they have to go piggyback. Almost by chance, he discovers a half-hidden cave-like trail that looks like it might furnish a way out, and it does. Once out of the canyon, they want to turn right around and go back. And Nick has to work fast to convince them that the way out is not down again, but up. As the daylight fades, Nick urges his little band up to a sheltered place for the night. In the morning, Nick finds a familiar river crossing that gives him his bearings and shows him the way to the high meadows. And here's the old footbridge where he and Rock and their master have brought so many sheep across. Only this time, his master isn't there to open the gate. Now the way is clear. This is a game of bluff, up to a point. Nick's system is not to let the skunk get set. One barking dog generally brings a pack up, and no cat's gonna wait around to see for sure. The sheep was almost half choked and plumb scared to death, but aside from that, she's all right, and Nick's not gonna let her stop and think about it. He knows that lion's apt to come back soon as it finds out the only thing between him and those sheep is one little black dog. Meanwhile, Rock and his master got the big flock through all right, and they've joined other herders and their dogs and taken advantage of the good grasslands. Looks kind of sparse to be 5. Yes, sir. That shook up one must have laid down somewhere to rest again. I guess there's no doubt they're glad to see Nick come back, bringing the runaway sheep with him. But there wasn't too much fuss kicked up about it. Fact is, that's just what they expected him to do. That's his job. And now as the herd moves on to new pastures, Nick is one of the old team again. Real content to be doing the job he was born for. Just being a good, hard-working sheepdog.
Next week, our program comes to you from Fantasyland. We call it How to Relax. Our star on this program is one of the most relaxed characters you've ever met, Goofy. In his own unusual way, Goofy will demonstrate his favorite subject, relaxing made easy the hard way.
Next week, from Fantasyland, Walt Disney shows you How to Relax. You'll see and hear Goofy, one of the world's most relaxed characters, telling his version of man's search for leisure, from prehistoric times right up to the present day. And in his own goofy way, he shows you what the tension and strain of present-day living can do to you if you don't relax. Are you a do-it-yourself fan in your leisure time? Goofy gives you the lowdown on what not to do. That is, if you want to keep your health and your sanity. Perhaps you seek relaxation in hobbies. Goofy tells you all about them, from collecting buttons through amateur photography. If weekend athletics are your leisure dish, you must listen to Goofy, the sportsman. He's master of them all. Riding, tennis, skiing. And he has a bag full of tips for spectator sportsmen, too, especially hockey fans.
Boots has got it. He's down the ice, tries for a shot at the net, but the goalie puts up a stout defense, knocking it away for a beautiful save. Here comes Colin Negrati fighting for the puck. There's the shot, and he scores! No, 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 look at that stop. Nothing ever gets past that goalie.
For the demon driver on vacation, Goofy shows you how to enjoy perfect relaxation on the highway. What roads to travel, what motels to choose. Finally, for dreamers who yearn to get away from it all, Goofy takes you to a tropic paradise. And with an assist from Harry Owens and his famous music, he shows you true relaxation at its romantic best. So be with us for Goofy's hilarious exploration of the delights of leisure next week when Walt Disney shows you how to relax. Soon, Walt Disney's Old Yeller. Seldom is a story so warm, so appealing, that in a single year it appears as a novel, as a magazine serial, a Reader's Digest book selection, and as a motion picture. Such is Old Yeller, Fred Gibson's exciting story of an old Yeller dog that made a habit of saving the lives of a frontier family. Old Yeller, co-starring Dorothy McGuire and Fess Parker, and introducing a big, homely, thieving rascal who'll steal his way into your heart. Walt Disney's Old Yeller, soon in theaters everywhere. This has been an ABC Television Network film presentation.